let's talk money.
Some people think adoptions are super expensive, and sometimes they are, but they don't have to be. So we're going to talk about finances today and how we pay for our adoption, the exact breakdown.
Without further ado, here's the breakdown of what we spent on Lincoln's adoption.
Our contract price to Little Angel Adoptions was $15,000 a flat fee up front. $200 for fingerprinting for federal and state background checks.
$1,500 for Texas Adoption Home Studies. They did our home study entirely, and that was all of the prices to include extra cost for travel because we lived so far from their company headquarters. $475 total for the profile books, which we will talk about in an upcoming video.
$350 for legal fees for finalizing the adoption.
$75 for miscellaneous fees.
Total spent, $17,600. The first thing for us when financing our adoptions is that we were out of debt. That's a whole video series unto themselves, but that's what we will say is to start off with both of our adoptions is that we were out of debt.
So we ended up getting an loan amount for $24,500
For our first adoption.
for our first adoption. That is not how much we paid for the adoption. When we first started talking to Little Angel Adoptions, they gave us their upfront cost, and then they told us, be aware, there will be little out-of-pocket expenses like fingerprinting, paying for the home study,
Travel,
yeah. Maybe helping your birth mother with any expenses that she might have. So we, being new to this whole adoption game and not really having anyone else to talk to, we just kind of came up with a ballpark number, and that's how we came up with the $24,500. But again, that was not our total. So when it came to Annalyn's adoption, hers actually cost less than that because we didn't have to pay for a full-on home study. We just had to pay to renew it. And then there was little things here and there that we didn't have to pay for, like new fingerprinting. We got another loan for her adoption as well, but it was even less than that. I think it was about $19,000. And again, we didn't even use all that. It was there just in case we needed some buffer money.
Obviously, there are a lot of different banks that you could go with when getting an adoption loan, if that's what you decide to do. We found Lightstream, which was the right choice for us. They were awesome. They have adoption specific loans with special interest rates. It was just a great fit all around for us, and we used them for both of our adoptions.
They had great customer service. We applied and immediately we were getting feedback from them, and we were approved quickly, and the money was transferred all within just a couple of days. They were definitely on the ball with everything, and just overall a really good company to work with.
Now remember, every adoption is going to be different. No two families or adoptive parents are going to be in the exact same situation. So for us, one perk of being in the military is that we had free notarizations, which dropped our prices down, not significantly, but it saved us a few $100s. Another thing with our adoptions is that both of our kids were born in Texas, and we were living in Texas at the time, so that saved us from having to buy plane tickets. It saved us from having to drive across country, and it saved us from having to stay out of state, far away for a long time, which is something we kind of planned on doing, so it saved us hotel fees, eating out fees, stuff like that.
So there were a few things that we were able to do to pay off this debt quickly. First of all, we kept a really good budget pertaining to the actual adoption expenses. So in the end, when we realized that we weren't spending as much money towards the adoption as we had planned for, we took that money and we just rolled it right back into the debt. We paid off the debt in under half of its term, and we also looked into what other kind of benefits there could be out there for us. One big one being the Department of Defense adoption reimbursement, which, like you said, was a perk of being in the military.
They will reimburse you for up to $2,000 per adoption and even up to $5,000 per year if you have more than one adoption in the same year.
What's important to note here is that other companies do things like this.
The DoD is not the only one who does that.
Right. There are lots of them out there, and some of them will give you reimbursement, some of them give assistance. So during the process, they'll help you out. Some give paid leave when you need to go to courts or when the baby is born or when you have to travel or whatever.
And sometimes the DoD is on the low end of that reimbursement scale, $2,000 per adoption. Other corporate bodies might give $5,000 or even more per adoption to help you along. So make sure you check into that.
Right. And even if you don't work for a large company, I highly recommend going and talking to whoever your superiors are or your significant others, bosses, or management are, because you never know. Just ask.
The other thing that helped us pay off our loans quickly were tax benefits. First of all, you get a tax credit when you adopt, the year that you adopt, and then we put our entire tax refunds to paying off the loans. So whatever we got, we just paid it directly to the loan.
Again, our adoption expenses aren't going to look exactly like yours or anybody else's, but it is just to prove the point that not all adoptions have to cost $30,000 or $40,000.
And the other thing is that, say your adoption does cost $30,000, if you have a good enough income to get the adoption loan in the first place, it probably means that you have a good enough income to pay off the loan very quickly. Okay, so remember that. Look, we are not special. That's what we're just trying to drive home with this, is if we can do it, you can too, because we spend way too much money eating out. We spend way too much money on movies.
Let's get real.
All these things. Like, we spend too much money doing these things. But if we could pay off this debt, these adoption loans quickly, so can you.
Check out our next video in this adoption series. It's about the hump study. And I can tell you right now, it's not as scary as you think it is. Bye.
Bye.
Happy adopting.